Well, with the situation in Greenland becoming perhaps more unpredictable by the day, I'm joined by Rasmus Jarlov, Conservative Member of Parliament and Denmark's Chairperson of Defence Committee. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. There is no clear sense that most people are getting about where this is all headed. Yesterday, we heard statements that Denmark would respond if there was any American military presence in Greenland that you were uncomfortable with. Is that right?
Yes, thank you for taking interest in this in India as well. We appreciate that very much. Of course, in the situation that there was an American attack on Greenland, of course, we would have to defend it. We understand full well that it would be a very tough fight, and we would not be able to stop the Americans by military means. But we also want to make clear, of course, that it's not acceptable to attack us militarily, and it would lead to the absurd situation and disastrous situation of a war between two NATO countries, which would be completely devastating and very, very stupid and unnecessary.
Mr. Jarlov, you make an important point. Denmark would respond militarily, come what may, if there is American military aggression in Greenland. Is that right?
I really don't like to talk a lot about that scenario because that can sound like we're threatening the Americans and we're trying to be tough. We're not. We understand we're a small power, very, very small power compared to the Americans. So it's not like we're trying to intimidate the Americans, scare them. But if theoretically that would be a war between two NATO countries, and of course that would lead to shots being fired and people be killed, and I would have to go to funerals. I would have to look at people who had been gunned down by Americans for absolutely no reason. And that would be a tragedy that's just really hard to understand, and a very, very unnecessary one, because the Americans already have access to Greenland. We already have a defense agreement that allows them access, and they can do mining in Greenland as well if that's what they want. So there's absolutely no need for this, and we really hope we can get it back on track, that it doesn't escalate.
Mr. Jarlov, the other point, of course, is that America wants to buy Greenland. Is the sovereignty, the identity of Greenland up for sale?
It is not up for sale. We can do a lot of other things for the Americans, and we have never objected to an American presence. That's why we have that defense agreement that allows them to have military bases and a military presence as much as they want. So the Americans definitely do not need to annex Greenland for security purposes, because they already have access to it. But we can't sell 57,000 Danish citizens to become Americans. They don't want to, and they have made that extremely clear, and Denmark has made it extremely clear that we can't sell Greenland. It's not for sale, and it's not a matter of a price, so it doesn't matter what type of money is being offered, and it is also regardless of what pressure is put on us. We simply can't do that. And from there, it is up to the Americans how much they're going to escalate the situation. We hope they don't. We hope it becomes constructive, and they will articulate to us what needs that they have. The problem we have is that since they already have full access to Greenland, it's hard for us to see what more we could do for them. But they have to talk to us. They have to let us know what needs they have, and then we can have a constructive dialogue. But nothing will be achieved by military threats or threats of annexation by other means. That couldn't be achieved by just calling us.
Mr. Jarlov, how united are people in Greenland? Are there is there any group which is actually saying, no, let's talk to the Americans, or let us use this opportunity to state the need for Greenland's sovereignty? Do you believe that there are those elements as well? Is that a concern?
There are different approaches to how much you should talk to the Americans. But there's complete agreement that the Greenlanders do not want to become part of the United States. There was an election last year, and in the local Greenlandic parliament, where there's 31 members, there wasn't a single one elected that wants to join the United States. And there was a poll, a very large poll made last year, that showed that only 6% of people in Greenland would like to leave Denmark to become part of the United States. So although many Greenlanders do dream about becoming independent, there's hardly anyone that wants to join the United States. So we're trying to. Denmark is not preventing Greenland from becoming independent. They are part of Denmark because they have not requested independence. They've had the option of leaving for 17 years, so they could have done that if they wanted. They've not requested it. They've not started the process. And we're available for Greenland to help them develop as long as they're part of Denmark. We're assisting them in developing the country, the direction that they want. But we're also protecting them right now from being taken over by the Americans because that's something that they don't want. And the ties between Denmark and Greenland are quite close. They speak Danish, they're Danish citizens, they have members of our parliament here in Copenhagen, where I am right now. And a quarter of all Greenlanders live in Denmark. Most of them have spent time in Denmark during their life. They've been educated here and so on. The ties are very, very close. So it's very few Greenlanders that completely want to cut the ties to Denmark. But they do want more autonomy. And they're working towards that. They're gradually building up their society, educating themselves, becoming more and more capable of taking over roles in society. But for now, the ties with Denmark are crucial to Greenland, and they don't want to cut those ties.
Would this spell the end of NATO if America were to do anything? I'm not just talking about militarily, but otherwise, if they were to force the issue one way or the other, would that spell the end of NATO?
It could well do that. I mean, certainly a military attack would be the end of NATO, because then Denmark would have to invoke the Article 5 in NATO, which is the oath that countries have to come and protect us. And then the Americans and all other countries would be obliged to come and help Denmark, protect Denmark against the United States. Of course, the Americans would veto that, and then NATO would be dead. But other means are also unacceptable. I don't think any country could or should accept a targeted campaign from a foreign power to dismantle the country. And that's really what we're talking about. Americans are working actively to try to dismantle the Kingdom of Denmark. I mean, would India accept that a foreign power went to a province in India, tried to hook up with an independence movement, tried to bribe them into leaving India? I don't think any country would accept such an approach. Denmark is not standing in the way of the Greenlanders becoming independent, not at all. We are we're just there because they haven't asked us not to be there. And we've been there for 600 years. But it seems very, very unacceptable that the Americans are working so actively to sort of trying to dismantle our kingdom. Like if China went to Hawaii, tried to bribe people there into leaving the United States to become part of China, I think they would object quite aggressively against that.
Mr. Yadav, very, very strong views, but very important ones. It's a story that's impacting, global dynamics around the world. Thank you so much for sharing the perspective of Denmark in this very important story. Thank you very much indeed. I'm joined by Kuno Fenker, a Greenland MP. Mr. Fenker, thanks very much for being with us. Yesterday, there were some reports which suggested that if there was some sort of an American military presence in Greenland, which you disagreed with, the Danish government would react. Is that realistically something that might happen?
I think it will be the wrong move from Denmark. And the military size of the United States and the military size of Denmark, and even 70% of the budget and the military size of NATO is the American military. So Greenland is on the American continent, and it's a part of the Monroe Doctrine, which is a very geopolitical important area for the United States. There is a military airbase fixed base in northwest Greenland, which is an American base, and where they survey eventual incoming missiles from Russia.
Yep.
But the shipping routes are opening up, so the security concern is understandable, but the rhetoric from the United States is not understandable.
And in terms of protests, are we seeing a lot of that in Greenland presently?
No, but we saw some protests in, I think it was in January last year, after the elections, the inauguration in the US, and people saying that we are not for sale and so forth. But rhetoric is changing up and down from the United States. Hence, the Art of the Deal book from Donald Trump is absolutely on its, they are using that right now. So I think what we need to do from Greenland is keep our heads cool and talk with the Americans directly and hear about what is their concerns, what's their interest, and also what is it that they want realistically instead of nobody's going to annex Greenland. It's like people in Greenland will never accept a new annexation, which we are under right now from Denmark. And that's why the US is probably also questioning the right of the Kingdom of Denmark to keep Greenland.
Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland. That's a proposal which has been stated as well. Is that acceptable? Is your sovereignty up for sale?
No, it's not for sale, but right now we get a subsidy from Denmark, an annual subsidy, which is basically a purchase or rent of the island. So we also have to be, careful in regards to our own morals here. So I think in principle, no country should be on sale, but Greenland wants to be a sovereign state. We know we are a small population, a very big island, so we know that we can't be fully independent. But who is, in a way? We need to have allies, and those allies will still be, for example, the United States, NATO, Denmark, the European nations, and so forth, which are in our nearby vicinity allies.
Is there a growing willingness among people in Greenland, political leaders like you, that you do want to talk to America? You're not saying, I don't want to talk to you, please go away.
Of course, I would say that, in my opinion, I will always go the diplomatic way, because the only other way to do things is through military conflict. So we will, of course, go the diplomatic way. And that's also why I went to the inauguration in January last year, to talk to the Americans, because the diplomatic way to talk to people is the best way to solve a eventual conflict coming up, or maybe if the Americans have some concerns in regards to their own security and national security and also international security, we have to address it so that we can amend eventually the defense agreement, which the United States have from 1951 with Denmark. But we amended it a little bit in 2004, where we sort of decreased the possibilities of the Americans in Greenland. We might have to remedy that and look upon what is it their concerns are, and work for Greenland's independence, but in cooperation with the states that are interested in Greenland.
No, but as I understand it, and you were talking about the 1951-1952 agreement, America has the right to build more military facilities and bases in Greenland. Isn't that right?
Not absolutely. The 51 agreement says that it's a possibility with the consent of Denmark, but we made some amendments in 2004 that has limited the access to Greenland. And it also says that the only defense area the United States have is the fixed base. So we have to act upon what are the facts and read what are the agreements and the law. So we will have to adhere to that, so that people don't say things that the United States can do whatever they want. It's not true.
I understand, Greenland's identity, but is Greenland firmly with Denmark and Mette Frederiksen in this entire situation?
I will say from my party's side, we don't want to be de facto annexed by Denmark anymore. We don't want to be de facto a colony anymore. We want to be our own independent state with our own identity, with our own citizenship. And Greenlanders should own Greenland, not Denmark, and not the United States. So Mette Frederiksen has a moral problem, in my opinion, because Denmark is supposed to be a democratic country, but they still have a king. Their constitution is only about the king and king and king, not not even once democracy is mentioned. So what we need is that we are in 2026. They colonized us in 1721, and they denied us our Compact of Free Association in 2009. And now I think it's time for Denmark to reckon, or Greenland get some reckoning in regards to our rights as in international law to get into a sovereign state, but in cooperation with the US and also Denmark for that sake.
But Mr. Fenker, the timing of what you are stating now, it sort of comes at a time when America is making all these claims. Do you believe that this is the most opportune time for you to be in a situation where you get the sovereignty that you seek?
Absolutely, because with no urgency, no change is happening. We have seen that for over 300 years now. And now the opportunity of the urgency created by the United States is giving us the opportunity and gives us some negotiation leverage. And I can also say that I'm right here in Tórshavn in the Faroe Islands. And they told me that they will actually go to Denmark in January because they want to have an independent state too, because they can't be members of the WTO, World Trade Organization, or their handball team can't compete in the Olympics because they are not a sovereign state. So there are some issues here that are both in regards to our identity, but also our citizenship, our right to our own lands that needs to be reckoned.
Okay. And a final question to you. Do you represent a minority view in Greenland? Or do most Greenlanders feel that they don't want to talk to Donald Trump at all at this stage?
I think there has been a lot of panic because you can see the tactics of the United States is like they are saying one thing and another thing, and many politicians are saying things, and a lot of media has also fear-mongered about the United States and also painting them a enemy picture. So that is, in my opinion, wrong. I think we have to be diplomatic. I think the people of Greenland will understand at some point that we need to get out of our hiatus. We are not an ostrich hiding in the ground. We need to get our head up and also act like a sovereign state and talk to the states that are interested in us.
Mr. Fenker, you didn't answer my question. I was asking you, do you represent a majority view in Greenland?
I can't say, but I will say that I will do my utmost so that people understand.
All right. Kuno Fenker, MP from Greenland, thank you very much for speaking to us and sharing your views. Thanks very much indeed.